English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Easy Podcast, your partner to learning English.
Welcome back, everyone. We are so glad you are here.
Yeah, and we are actually opening our deep dive today with that specific intro snippet, because I want to start with a question that drives like almost every language learner absolutely crazy.
Oh, I think I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right. I mean, why does making a bed and, say, doing the laundry feel like the exact same type of household chore, yet English forces you to use two completely different verbs to describe them?
It really is the ultimate linguistic trap. I mean, you are exerting physical energy in your house, cleaning things up, yet somehow you have to switch verbs mid-chore.
Exactly. And usually when we talk about language learning, there is this heavy expectation of, rigid textbook perfection.
Yeah, the old school way.
Right, like you memorize a vocabulary list, you apply a strict formula, and you just seamlessly drop the words into a sentence. But to figure out this specific grammar puzzle today, we have pulled together a massive stack of sources.
We really have everything from linguistic history papers and cognitive science journals to corporate communication guides and even native speaker email transcripts.
Because we aren't just going to give you another boring list to memorize. We are targeting this deep dive specifically for you, the intermediate learner who, already knows enough to get by, but really wants to navigate these tricky nuances of confidence.
That is the whole mission today. The goal is to build an intuition. Because when you step out into the real world, whether you are trying to order food or run a financial meeting or just chat with friends, those textbook formulas often just crumble.
They totally fall apart.
They do. So we are looking at a system that relies much more on a feeling, like a cognitive categorization, rather than a strict mathematical rule. Today, we are decoding two of the tiniest, yet most heavily loaded words in the English language, which are do and make.
Two tiny words, but massive, massive confusion. And hey, if you are listening to this right now and you constantly second guess whether to say, I do a decision or I make a decision, we want you to know right off the bat that you are not alone.
Oh, definitely not alone. Even native speakers don't consciously think about the rules for these words. They just rely on their cognitive wiring.
Right. So where does this wiring actually come from? Like, why is it so hard for learners?
Well, if we look at the linguistic research, the root of the confusion becomes incredibly clear. The number one hurdle learners face is simply trying to translate word for word from their native language.
Which is so natural to do.
Of course it is. I mean, in Spanish, you have hacer. In French, you have faire. In so many languages, there is only one single verb that handles both the concept of performing an action and the concept of creating an object.
But English, being the wonderful, messy, historical melting pot that it is, decided to split the workload.
Exactly that. English evolved by dividing these concepts into two distinct buckets. Historically, the word do stems from an ancient Proto-Germanic root, meaning to put, to place, or to act.
So it was always tied to the exertion of energy.
Right. Pure energy or action. Make, on the other hand, comes from a completely different root, meaning to build, to construct, or to fit together.
Okay, let's unpack this with a mental image, because I was reading through the cognitive science papers we pulled for this, and I realized it boils down to something we can actually visualize.
I love a good visualization. Let's hear it.
Tell me if this analogy holds up, okay? Do is like running on a treadmill.
Okay, running on treadmill.
Yeah, you are performing an activity, you are sweating, you are putting in kinetic energy, but at the end of the run, you don't have a new physical object in your hands. You just completed a routine.
I see where you're going with this.
Right. But make is like painting a canvas. You are taking raw materials, assembling them, and bringing a completely new result into the world that simply did not exist before you started.
The treadmill versus the canvas. That is an incredibly highly accurate way to frame the cognitive mechanism. Do is the execution of a process. Make is the generation of an asset or an outcome.
Awesome.
And if we apply this fundamental lens to those daily home routines we started the show with, the fog immediately starts to lift.
Well, let's test it right now. When I look at my weekend chores, I do the cleaning, I do the laundry, I do the dishes.
You are on the treadmill.
I am performing a repetitive maintenance task. I haven't created a magical brand new plate.
Yeah.
I've just maintained the ones I already own.
Exactly. But contrast that kinetic energy with your time in the kitchen. You make breakfast, you make coffee, you make a salad.
Because I took eggs, flour, beans, or vegetables, and I constructed something new. I painted the canvas.
You painted the culinary canvas, yes.
Okay, but here is where I want to push back, though, because language is messy. What about the example from the very beginning of the deep dive? Making the bed. I mean, if I make the bed, I am not building a new mattress from scratch with wooden springs. I'm just pulling the sheets up. So why isn't it do the bed?
That is the perfect counterexample because it really highlights how English defines a creation. In the English cognitive map, you aren't just moving fabric around, you are creating a new state of order.
Wait, a new state of order?
Yeah. You are taking a chaotic pile of blankets and constructing a defined, neat structure. You generated an outcome, a made bed.
Ah, so the Kansas doesn't have to be a completely new physical object. It can be a new constructed state.
Precisely.
That actually explains another huge trap for intermediate learners, which is homework. A lot of learners naturally assume they should say, I make my homework, because they view the finished worksheet as a new physical creation.
Right, I see that logic all the time. But in the English framework, homework is categorized culturally as a responsibility. It's a routine obligation assigned to you by a teacher.
So it is a process you must endure.
Exactly. Therefore, you are back on the treadmill. You do your homework, you do a test, you do an exam.
That distinction is so clarifying. Now, knowing the theory is one thing, but speaking a language requires physical muscle memory in your mouth.
It absolutely does.
Now, my promise today wasn't going to be a stressful textbook lecture. So we're going to do a fast-paced shadowing exercise right now for our listeners.
I love this idea.
Yeah, and we aren't going to treat you like beginners by leaving huge, awkward pauses. Instead, I want you to shadow me. Listeners, I will say a phrase, and I want you to echo it immediately, out loud, wherever you are. Feel how the words link together. Let's build that neural pathway. Ready? Let's go. I do the dishes.
Notice the flow. Keep going.
I make breakfast. I do the laundry. I make the bed. I do my homework. I make a coffee.
That was great. Building that physical rhythm is vital. Your mouth literally needs to memorize the collocation, which is just the way those words naturally sit next to each other, so your brain doesn't have to calculate the grammar rule in real time.
Right. You want it to be automatic. So now that we have our home lives sorted out, let's step outside. The sources we reviewed highlight that hospitality and weekend socializing are major stumbling blocks.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's do a little simulation. Let's say you are booking a weekend getaway or ordering food.
The treadmill and canvas rule scales perfectly here. Imagine you are calling a hotel. You want to secure a room for the weekend. You don't do a reservation because you are generating a new booking in their system. You make a reservation.
Right. You are painting a new event onto their calendar. Let's role play it. I'm the hotel clerk. Hello, how can I help you today?
Hi, I'd like to make a reservation for 2 nights, please.
See? Simple and natural. And when you actually get to the hotel and you are hungry, you call down to the kitchen, you make an order.
Yes, because you are constructing a specific request for food.
But wait, look at the hotel staff's perspective. The staff isn't creating the concept of room service. They are executing the daily operations of the hotel.
Exactly. So the staff does room service, the housekeeping team does the cleaning.
It changes completely based on who is performing the process versus who is generating the result. That is wild.
It's all about perspective.
Okay, let's take this same logic and escalate it to the corporate world. We combed through a lot of professional communication guides for this deep dive because the vocabulary in the office feels much more intimidating.
It can be very daunting.
Especially when we get into difficult financial terminology, like, intermediate learners often freeze up in meetings.
Financial and corporate vocabulary can sound incredibly dense, but it obeys the exact same cognitive mechanism. Let's look at the do bucket first.
Okay, the treadmill.
Right. When you are managing operations, compliance, or ongoing processes, you are on the treadmill. You do business, you do an audit, you do the accounting, you do due diligence.
Wait, let's break those down for our listeners really quickly. Doing an audit or doing due diligence, those are heavy ongoing processes.
Very heavy. An audit is a massive check of all the financial records. Due diligence is the deep investigation you do before buying a company.
So it's hours and hours of reading and verifying. It's pure kinetic energy.
Precisely. But the moment you shift to the value you generate from those processes, you switch to make.
The canvas.
Yes. You make a profit, you make a margin, you make a dividend, you make an investment.
Because you are bringing new financial value into existence. A margin is the profit you created after costs, right? So you built that.
Exactly. You constructed that wealth.
I want to look at a specific real-world example we found in our research. It was an excerpt from an internal corporate email written by an intermediate speaker who was clearly very frustrated and it went like this. I did a lot of research, but I made a mistake in the Q3 financial forecast, so now I have to do the report all over again.
That is a phenomenal sentence to analyze because the speaker naturally nailed the complex transitions.
They really did.
Yeah.
Let's break it apart. I did a lot of research. Research is an investigative process. It's an activity.
Right. But I made a mistake. Now, this one always trips people up.
It really does. Because, a mistake feels like an action. It feels like something you did wrong.
Yeah.
Why on earth is it make a mistake?
Well, I would argue it's because a mistake isn't an action, it's the result of an action.
Oh.
Yeah. You generated an error, you brought a flaw into existence, just like in the next part of their email, the financial forecast. You make a forecast.
Because you are taking raw data, the research you did, and you are constructing a vision of the future. You painted a corporate canvas.
Beautifully put. And finally, they said, I have to do the report all over again.
Wait, let me stop you right there. Do the report. Earlier, we established that you make a presentation or make a plan because you are creating a new asset. Why would they say do the report?
This is where we hit the brilliant flexibility of English. You actually can say both, but the focus shifts.
Really? How so?
If you say, I need to make a report, you are focusing on the creation of a brand new document. If you say, I need to do the report, you are focusing on the task of completing it as an administrative duty.
That blew my mind when I first read it in linguistics papers. The verb you choose actually dictates the camera angle of the sentence. It's like the difference between being an author creating a masterpiece and being an employee just checking off a to-do list.
Exactly that. And speaking of shifting perspectives, dealing with mistakes and office stress naturally brings up our next topic, which is emotions and our social lives.
Yes, and this is perhaps the most absolute rule in our entire discussion today. Listeners, write this one down in your minds. When it comes to feelings and internal emotional states, you always use make.
Always.
Because you are creating a feeling inside someone else.
Precisely. If we look at the cognitive science of emotions, a feeling isn't something you perform, it's a physiological result that is caused by a stimulus. So a direct translation from Spanish might tempt you to say, you do me happy, but English demands, you make me happy.
You are the cause. The happiness is the newly generated result.
Right.
Like, that movie made me cry. Or, this new financial policy makes me nervous. Her presentation made me confident. These are such natural, powerful structures.
They are the backbone of social connection in English.
And speaking of feelings, there is a specific phrasing tip we extracted from the communication guides that can instantly elevate how natural you sound. A lot of intermediate learners, when expressing frustration, will say, this situation makes me stress.
It is incredibly common, but it's structurally incomplete.
Right. The natural phrasing is, this situation makes me stressed, with an ED at the end.
Stress.
Yeah. You aren't creating the abstract concept of stress in the universe. You're creating the state of being stressed within yourself.
It is a tiny grammatical tweak, but it completely changes how fluent you sound in a meeting or just a casual chat. It shifts you from sounding like someone translating a textbook to someone expressing a lived experience.
Totally. And this concept of creation naturally extends to how we build our social lives on the weekend, too. Let's run your treadmill and canvas analogy against how we hang out with friends. Let's do a little casual scenario.
Okay, let's look at doing sports. When my friends and I do sports, we are on the treadmill. We are running around a tennis court or a soccer field, exerting kinetic energy. It's a pure activity.
But what happens before you get to the field? You have to make plans.
Exactly. We started with an empty Saturday morning. We texted, we negotiated times, and we painted a scheduled event onto the canvas. We made plans.
Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Let's make plans. It's so conversational.
And through those interactions, we create abstract social bonds. We make friends, we make peace after an argument, and one phrase that is particularly beautiful in English, we make time.
Oh, I love that one. If someone says to you, I know you are incredibly busy, thank you for making time for me today, it means their schedule was completely full, like a solid wall of obligations, but they deliberately carved out and constructed a new empty space just for you.
It implies so much care. It is a deeply relational use of the word.
It really is. So we've walked through the home, the hotel, the corporate office, and our personal relationships. I know the temptation right now for you listening is to frantically write down a master list of everything we've just said to practice at home.
Oh, please drop the pen. Step away from the list.
Haha, seriously. The strategy we want you to adopt for your daily learning habit is completely different. Rote memorization is just exhausting.
It is. Instead, when you are speaking and you feel that moment of hesitation, just ask yourself one quick diagnostic question. Am I exerting energy on a process, or am I generating a new result?
Am I sweating on the treadmill, or am I painting a canvas?
Exactly.
Let's actually put this intuition to the test right now. Instead of those awful language tapes with the awkward silences, I'm going to fire off some rapid-fire scenarios. Let's see how fast we can categorize them.
I am ready.
Listeners, try to beat the expert's answer in your head. Okay? Here we go. A promise to yourself.
Make a promise. You are creating a new commitment.
The laundry.
Do the laundry. Routine maintenance. Treadmill.
An effort to improve your pronunciation.
Make an effort. You are generating a new burst of focused energy.
Canvas.
A favor for a friend.
Do a favor. You are performing an action on their behalf. Treadmill.
An excuse for being late.
Make an excuse. You are literally constructing a reason that wasn't there before. Canvas.
Nailed it. I love how fast you can feel the logic once you stop treating it like math.
It becomes second nature.
But listen, if you are an intermediate learner listening to this and you guessed wrong on a few of those, or if your brain still feels a little scrambled right now, you need to understand that is a fantastic sign.
It really is. In cognitive science, confusion is not categorized as failure. Confusion is the physical sensation of your brain encountering friction as it builds a new neural pathway.
It's the bulldozer clearing the dirt road before you can pave the highway.
That is a great way to put it. Think of a growing plant. You don't see the progress every single day. You water it, and it looks exactly the same.
Right.
But underneath the soil, the roots are pushing through the dirt. It is happening quietly. And one day, it stands tall. Language acquisition works the exact same way. You don't need to logically calculate make versus do every single time forever.
Thank goodness.
Right. You endure the friction now, you expose yourself to the language, and one day, the highway is built. You will find yourself sitting in a boardroom saying, "We made a massive profit," and you won't even realize you used the right verb.
That is the ultimate goal. And it brings us perfectly to the core philosophy of this deep dive. Our mission today wasn't to turn you into a flawless grammar robot. We want you to practice what we call brave English.
Brave English. I love that. The world does not require perfection from you. It requires connection.
Exactly. Think about the stakes. If you're at a restaurant and you accidentally say, "I want to do an order of fries," what is the absolute worst thing that happens? Does the waiter look at you in horror?
No.
Do the grammar police break down the door? No. The waiter brings you the fries. The communication was 100% successful.
You transferred the idea from your brain into theirs. The mechanism worked.
English is not an exam you are trying to pass. It is a bridge. It is a tool to connect with new friends, to advocate for yourself in meetings, to navigate travel, and to share your unique perspective with the world.
And the braver you are, the more willing you are to step off the treadmill and risk making a mistake, the faster those neural pathways are going to lock in.
Every single time you open your mouth, whether in a high-stakes financial meeting or just chatting about your weekend plans, it is an opportunity to strengthen that cognitive highway.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating, frustrating, and ultimately beautiful architecture of do and make, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your week. A question that puts both of these words to work.
Think about your daily routines and your long-term goals. Ask yourself, what do you do every single day to maintain your life? And what small, powerful change do you want to make for your future?
What kinetic energy will you do, and what new reality will you make?
Hold on to that thought.
Thank you so much for joining us today, learners. Remember, you don't need a textbook to master this language. You just need a little bravery and the willingness to see the logic behind the words. Keep learning, keep trying, and above all, keep making progress. We will see you on the next deep dive.